Dr. Emma Taylor, a renowned psychologist, had always been fascinated by the human mind's darkest corners. Her latest patient, a mysterious and reclusive young man named Michael, seemed like the perfect subject for her research. Emma was determined to unravel the tangled threads of Michael's mind. But as she delved deeper, she realized that some secrets were better left unspoken. Their sessions began with Michael's hesitant whispers, gradually increasing in intensity and frequency. Emma's notes filled with cryptic remarks and eerie anecdotes, hinting at a traumatic past. Michael's eyes seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken terrors, yet Emma remained resolute in her pursuit of understanding. As the weeks passed, Emma found herself entangled in a web of mind games, where reality and illusion blurred. Michael's words dripped with sinister intent, and Emma began to question her own sanity. He would often cancel sessions at the last minute, only to resurface with an unsettling grin, as if he knew a dark secret she didn't. The lines between patient and doctor, truth and lies, started to blur. Emma's dreams became increasingly distorted, filled with visions of Michael's haunting smile and disembodied voices whispering her name. She began to suspect that Michael was manipulating her, but the evidence was elusive, hidden behind a veil of charm and charisma. One fateful night, Emma received a cryptic message from Michael. The truth is in the mirror. As she gazed into the reflection, she saw her own face distorted, as if the glass was shattering from within. The room began to spin, and Emma's mind raced with the terrible realization that she was trapped in Michael's twisted game. With each passing moment, the nightmare intensified. Emma's perception of reality crumbled, and she became lost in a labyrinth of her own mind. The voice in her head, once her own, now whispered cruel taunts, echoing Michael's sinister laughter. She started to doubt her own memories, wondering if she had ever truly been in control. Desperate for answers, Emma turned to her colleagues for help, but they seemed oblivious to her plight. Were they in on the conspiracy, or was she truly alone in her descent into madness? The hospital's corridors seemed to shift and twist, like a living maze designed by Michael's sadistic mind. As the mirror's hold on her tightened, Emma confronted the darkest corners of her own psyche. She realized that Michael was not the only one playing mind games. Her own mind was her greatest enemy. The reflection in the mirror mocked her, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly intensity. In a heart-pounding climax, Emma faced the shattered remnants of her sanity. She stared into the abyss, her mind reeling with the terrible truth. Michael was never the patient. She was. The mirror's hold shattered, releasing her from the labyrinth of horrors. But as she stumbled back into reality, Emma realized that the true horror was far from over. Michael's sinister grin still lingered, etched in her mind like a scar. She knew that she would never be able to escape the mind games, for in the darkest corners of her own psyche, the monster still lurked, waiting to strike. Daniel had never believed in the supernatural. A software engineer by trade, he placed his trust in logic and science. Ghosts, spirits, and curses were mere figments of overactive imaginations, he would often tell anyone who brought up such topics. Yet, as he drove up to the old manor house on the outskirts of town, a chill ran down his spine. The manor, known as Wexler House, had a notorious reputation. Built in the late 1800s, it had changed hands numerous times, each new owner leaving under mysterious circumstances. The most recent occupant, Dr. Adrian Carter, had disappeared without a trace 3 months ago. The house had been left in limbo, its fate undecided, until Daniel's company bought it, intending to turn it into a luxurious retreat for tech executives. Daniel's task was simple: stay in the house for a week, assess its structural integrity, and report back. He wasn't worried. After all, it was just a house. His skepticism, however, would soon be challenged. The first night was uneventful. Daniel unpacked his bags, set up his laptop, and began his initial survey of the house. The manor was indeed impressive, with its grand staircase, intricate woodwork, and sprawling rooms, yet it had an eerie atmosphere, a sense of something watching from the shadows. Around midnight, Daniel settled into bed. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional creak of the old house settling. He drifted off to sleep, his rational mind untroubled by the whispers of the past. It was around 2 a.m. when Daniel woke up, heart pounding. At first, he couldn't understand why. Then he heard it, a faint whispering, just on the edge of hearing. He sat up, straining to catch the words, but they eluded him. He shook his head, dismissing it as a dream, and lay back down. But the whispering continued. It grew louder, more insistent. Daniel got up, grabbed his flashlight, and followed the sound. It led him to room 22, a small, unremarkable room at the end of the east wing. The door was slightly ajar. Pushing it open, Daniel shone his flashlight around the room. It was empty, except for a large mirror on the wall. As he approached the mirror, the whispering stopped. He looked at his reflection, half expecting something to jump out at him, but nothing happened. Shaking his head, he returned to his room, convinced it was just his imagination. The next morning, Daniel resumed his survey. As he explored the house, he found himself drawn back to room 22. The mirror intrigued him. It was an old, ornate piece, the glass slightly tarnished with age. He decided to take a closer look. As he inspected the mirror, he noticed something odd. The reflection seemed off. It was subtle, but there was a slight delay, as if the mirror was taking a fraction of a second longer to show his movements. He waved his hand, and sure enough, there was a delay. His curiosity piqued. He decided to take a video of it with his phone. Watching the playback, his heart skipped a beat. The delay was gone, but there was something else. For a brief moment, he saw a shadowy figure standing behind him in the reflection, though the room itself had been empty. Determined to find a rational explanation, Daniel began searching the house for clues. In the library, he found a journal belonging to Dr. Adrian Carter. The entries were sporadic, but one caught his eye. The mirror in room 22 is not what it seems. I've spent hours observing it, and I am convinced it is a conduit to another realm. The whisper started last week, and I fear I am losing my mind, but I must know the truth. June 1st, 2023. The mirror showed me something tonight, a vision of myself, but twisted and malevolent. It spoke to me, taunting, saying it would replace me. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. The entries ended abruptly. Daniel's skepticism wavered. Could the mirror truly be something more than just a piece of glass? That night, Daniel dreamt of the mirror. He stood before it, and his reflection smiled at him. But it was not a friendly smile. It was cold and cruel. "Welcome, Daniel," the reflection said. "Shall we play a game?" Daniel woke up in a cold sweat. The room was dark, but he could feel eyes upon him. He glanced at the clock. 2 a.m., the same time as before. The whispering started again, louder this time. He grabbed his flashlight and made his way to room 22. The mirror seemed to pulse with an unnatural light. His reflection stared back at him, but there was something wrong. The eyes were too dark, the smile too wide. "Let's play a game," the reflection said, its voice echoing in Daniel's mind. "Find the truth or lose yourself." Over the next few days, Daniel's grip on reality began to slip. The whispering never stopped, and the mirror seemed to follow him, its presence invading his thoughts. He saw shadows moving in the corners of his eyes, heard voices calling his name. Sleep became a distant memory. He discovered more of Dr. Carter's journal entries, hidden throughout the house. Each one detailed the doctor's descent into madness, his obsession with the mirror growing until it consumed him. Daniel realized he was following the same path, and he had to find a way to break free. On the 6th night, Daniel decided to confront the mirror once and for all. He stood before it, flashlight in hand, and demanded answers. "What are you?" he shouted. "What do you want from me?" The reflection's smile widened. "I am a gateway, a bridge between worlds. Your world is not the only one, Daniel. There are countless others, and in each one, there is a version of you. Some are good, some are evil. I am your counterpart from a darker realm, and I wish to cross over." Daniel felt a surge of anger. I won't let you. You have no choice, the reflection hissed. The game is already in motion. Win, and you live. Lose, and I take your place. The final night arrived. The whispering had become deafening, and Daniel felt the walls closing in on him. He knew he had to face the mirror one last time. He returned to room 22, the air thick with tension. The mirror glowed with an otherworldly light, and his reflection waited, its eyes gleaming with malice. One last game, Daniel, it said. A riddle, solve it, and you are free. Fail, and I take your place. Daniel nodded, his mind racing. The reflection began. I speak without a mouth, and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? Daniel's thoughts churned, the answer just out of reach. The whispering grew louder, drowning out his rational mind. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to focus. A shadow? He guessed. But the reflection shook its head, its smile growing wider. Wrong, it said, and Daniel felt a cold hand grip his shoulder. The answer is an echo. In that moment, Daniel felt himself being pulled into the mirror. His surroundings blurred, and he found himself standing in a twisted version of the room. The walls were covered in dark, pulsating veins, and the air was thick with a malevolent presence. He looked at the mirror and saw his own reflection, but it was different. It was twisted and malevolent, just as Dr. Carter had described. The reflection smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Welcome to my world, it said. Your world is mine now. Daniel screamed, but no sound came out. He was trapped, an echo in a world of darkness, while his counterpart stepped into the light, taking his place. Weeks passed, and the Wexler house remained abandoned. Daniel's company sent another employee to check on him, but they found no trace of him. The house was declared uninhabitable, its dark reputation growing with each passing day. In the shadows of room 22, the mirror waited, its surface smooth and unbroken. But if one looked closely, they might see a figure trapped within, eyes wide with terror, an echo of a man who had lost a game of mind and soul. And the whispering continued, a constant reminder that some games are never truly over. Thank you for delving into the darkness with us. If you enjoyed tonight's terror, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories. And remember, the next time you hear a noise in the dark, it might just be one of our tales coming to life. Sweet dreams if you can. Subscribe for more nightmares.